Yo, what's going on YouTube? This is Broman Clash right here, and tonight or today, depending on which part of the world you're in, I want to talk about a topic that everybody's going to go through with, or has already been through with, or is still trying to find out the meaning of this topic. And yes, the topic I'm going to talk about is maturity. Well, maturity is an obscure, but yet a very life-changing thing that occurs within people. What does it mean to be mature? Does it mean to obtain to be up into like a certain age? Does it mean you have to experience certain things in life, which is more than enough true? Or does it necessarily mean that you live, you experience, and you understand? Now, see, look, because maturity, people think, oh, I reached like a certain age, I'm mature. But you typically see in adults, mostly adults that felt as if they had like an inferiority complex, or they were inferior, or they had no sense of confidence in themselves, so they try to portray up this macho-esque, high and mighty stepping stone that they have portrayed of themselves. But it's real stupid when you think about it, because it makes you think like, wait a minute, what are you up to and what are you trying to say? Because it sounds as if you have a lot more problems than you do try to solve them. And my question is, what does all this have to do with your life, and how does this tie in with my life? And what is maturity, anyways? Maturity, in essence, is a culmination of experience, living and understanding. And people don't have like a full grasp of that. And it's real funny when you really look at that and how the way. Matter of fact, can I tell you something else too? When you look at video game consoles and how the way they went from simple pixels and dots, went from like, I think a 1 bit, yeah, 1 bit, or like 6 bit, to like how many bits right now? Well, they don't call it bits anymore, like gigabytes or something like that. Yeah, gigabytes. But went from like the 8, not even the 8 bit. They went from like 4 bit to 8 bit to 16 bit, 32 bit, 64 bit, 182 bit, 256 bits, and then I think now it's like 512 bits. If the doubling of the number is staggeringly true. So when I look at that and how the way that's, to me, is like a maturing in video game technology, because the gaming starts out simple, childlike. It doesn't really have a personality of its own. See, I'm using video games as an example, and then and sometimes video game, sometimes in maturity, people tend to relapse into what they thought made them comfortable before. And my quote, progression over pleasure, and it kind of ties in with that, because incidentally, when you look at video games and you look at how the way they used to be very simple, but yet they taught like a valuable lesson, and then nowadays games, it seems as if they're just copy and paste. They're talking about war heroes, they're talking about first person shooters, they're talking about saving the princess. But when I look at indie games, which which is like a which is a throwback to what they did with like 16-bit and 32-bit, I think. And then, but yet the story was there. They told like a more mature story, and it just goes to show you, no matter. And this is like, I'm using games as like a bit of a reference point for me to talk about how the way, even if you grow up in age, if you keep on doing the same thing that you were when you were 15 years old and you're 30, then you wasted 15 years of your life. And believe it or not, that was actually a quote from Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali said this, and I quote, "If you have the same mind as you did when you were 15 and you are 30, then you wasted 15 years of your life." So what about somebody who matured way past their age? Say like a 15-year-old thinking like a 30-year-old or a 45-year-old. Then, funny enough, they don't feel like their time is being wasted, because they know what they're doing. And even some adults, they thinking that they're 20, they're 30, but yeah, and they think they're 20, 15 years old, but in actuality, they wasted all their time trying to rectify what the hell could have been fixed back then and try to solve it now. And that's where things get real sad because you got adults. I know I'm a nasty motherfucker. Nah, you know that. Just I had an itch on the inside. But when you deal with adults and they have to grow up, they are afraid to grow up because it requires change. And when I looked at with the whole gaming analogy and how the way games can be used as an analogy too, and they could talk about the same type of thing no matter how many years they or bits they grow up to be. And it's real funny when you look at, nowadays consoles, they're talking about, like saving the girl, saving the world, saving all that crap. But then you thinking like, wait a minute, what about saving oneself? See, that's why I like No More Heroes and I like some indie titles. Because even though some indie titles deal with like, a certain flair, deal with like a certain old school flair, and they deal with like save the princess, beat the bad guy, and all that crap. But when you look at like the internal dynamics of the main characters, like I mentioned, No More Heroes, because Travis Touchdown, he had like a pretty scarring childhood. I mean, his parents were killed right in front of him, even though his dad was a fucking scumbag. I mean, come on, if you're gonna do that to your own kid, spoiler alert, and you deserve to be killed, then, it seems as if, like, games don't deal with, like, the mindset. And, I watched, this game review, and I never played the game before. It was Catherine. There are two Catherines, Catherine with a C, Catherine with a K. I know, it's a bit of a spoiler, but, in the mind of, Vincent, I think that was the main character's name. You actually go through these stages, which is representative of his psyche, and some people, theorize that this whole thing is actually, the mind of Vincent, which is true, except for like the last 2 or 3 stages, I think. But then, to make matters even funnier, you can if you are the main character, then you can actually literally question yourself and say, like, wait a minute, is this me? Am I maturing? Or does it feel like I'm not exactly there anymore? And remember what I said about a kid that thinks like he's 30 or 45? And I don't mean like, try to say like, oh yeah, I'm grown up. Yeah, that means I can do whatever I want. No, I mean having like a mature mindset. They think straight. They don't do anything stupid. There's nothing wrong with being silly. I mean, being silly is, just having fun a bit. And don't worry, I do have fun myself as well. It's just that my brand of fun either includes playing video games and drawing, doing all kinds of stuff. If I see a soccer ball, I'll just kick a ball, kick a can, and just blurt things out and crack some jokes. That's just me. Like sometimes you gotta be silly. Like that's inevitable because you can't always be serious all the time. I learned that the hard way, and that's also a part of growing up as well because people think in being mature, you think that oh yeah, people point it out, or you just brag it out, and people tend to just say like, oh, this is what being mature really means, and this is what being immature really means. Let me tell you something. In the age of conformity and the age of society wants you to be a certain mold. Sometimes being immature is the best form of maturity because at least you know what goes on through your mind. Because when you're immature, you know what you want to do and you know what needs to be done in your life. But in being mature, are you being mature because you feel as if you need to grow up? Or do you really want to be mature because you feel as if, oh, you gotta impress society? Now, when it comes right down to it, why? Why do you want to be? Why do you want to be mature? Do you want to be mature because you want to impress other people, you want to keep people off your back, you want to seem sophisticated to other people, or are you doing it because you really just want to grow up? That's the thing, because people are afraid to grow up because they feel as if they're gonna lose people. Hell, I lost people that meant the world to me. You know, I'm serious. Who doesn't? Who doesn't lose people? And when it comes right down to it, sometimes you have to grow up and you have to accept the fact that as we live, we grow to our prime and then we wither down and die. And if you can accept that fact, but yet you can still live, that's a sign of true maturity, because you can actually say, like, wait a minute, I'm not going to stay young forever, so I might as well live like I ain't got no tomorrow, or do whatever I want like I ain't got no tomorrow. See, look, when you say I can do whatever I want, that means you also have a responsibility, and that's another part of maturity that people seem to have lacked. They don't want to take it. They don't want to take responsibility for what they have done onto other people, or what they are doing to themselves. Hey, I used to be the same way too, but I have to own up. But then as I grew older, then I realized, like, wait a minute, all this shit, like people were doing, all the stupid crap that my older cousins were doing, all the stupid crap that I see like adults are doing. I realized, like, wow, man, you say that you're supposed to represent, and you're supposed to say that our generation's the worst. Look at you, you're not even doing anything worth yourself. There's only like a few of you that are actually doing something right. Yeah, sorry about that. But when it comes right down to maturity, it's not about how old you are, or what type of things you go through, because even if you go through those things, but you can not progress. See, like I mentioned before, like the aforementioned quote, from Muhammad Ali. If you're 30 years old and you have the same mindset that you were at 15, you wasted 15 years of your life. And it's quite funny, because when I look back, and I know people are gonna say, like, but Roman, Clash, man, why you bringing up, your history? Let me tell you something. The reason why is because in learning about your history, you mature even further, and that's beautiful. See, when I look at the civil rights era, and I looked at how the way we were, like, I looked at my people, and we were born over here in chains, and it just made me think, like, wow, man, we went from like a maturing people to a maturing, from like a beautiful continent, and then we were born over here in shackles, like an infant that's still attached to the umbilical cord. We don't even know what's going on. Then to look at, how the way we matured from what we experienced, not from Africa, but from over here, Africa. Some people say that Africa is named after, a Greek or Greek or Roman general, but the real name of Africa is Kubalon, I think. Well, let's not get into that, but that's something else. But to look at that, and to see that we came from a place that had beauty, structure, and we met people that looked just like us, to being oppressed by the very same people that still wants to oppress us. And no, I'm not talking about, whitey that's out there struggling. I'm talking about, government, I'm talking about Congress, like, believe it or not, Congress has not even matured whatsoever, if you think about it, because they still think this is like the 1950s. They think it's like even before then. They still think that, hey, look, the wealthy class have status, and they got to say whatever the hell they want. You little peons, or what they call, poor people, homeless people. See, it's funny, because they'll treat a homeless person with more disrespect than they do with a CEO. And remember, we all bleed, and they want to talk about, oh wait, Aren't we all brothers? I'm like, wait a minute. Last time I checked, you spit in that homeless person's face. And yet you want to talk about we are all brothers. Man, come off it. And then, I'm using Congress as an example and how the way Congress has not really progressed whatsoever or matured. See, when you mature, you progress. And America, in a sense, has not progressed. It has not matured. It's still up to the same old tricks. And I know people saying, like, aren't you slandering America's name, Clash? I'm like, man, America already slandered its name, so I'm just bringing you the news. And to make matters, funnier, when like I mentioned before, my people, they were brought up in chains, and people who look just like me, they were brought up in chains. Our ancestors were brought up in chains. We learned how to survive. We matured, and then eventually we learned how to be intelligent. We didn't back off. We fought, but yeah, we were smart about it. And that was a symbol of our maturity right there. But then now, when I look at it, and I look back then, I say, damn, we didn't grow up as a people. We grew back to infancy. We didn't mature. We didn't grow up to our prime. We fell. And no, I'm not trying to say that all of us fit this mold. And I'm gonna keep it real with you, man, because there are a few people that that actually teach our people our history and doing it well, and they're keeping it right and they're keeping it real. And I say, you know what, man, that's true. And I say I give my respect and my kudos to all of you that are doing it right and doing it well. And then to look at how we used to be, how we had like a very organized people. We were out there marching. We were out there, yeah, like I mentioned before. See, look, now that's another part of maturing, being organized. See, look, we were out there marching. We were out there, organized. We were out there being peaceful. And, it's real sad when you look at how the way a maturing people, a maturing, yeah, like I said, people, you notice I didn't say race, people. Yeah, because, they say there's only a human race, but ironically enough, you meant to say ethnical background, your ethnicity. See, your ethnicity and nationality, because they say there's one race in the human race. Well, then you're just nothing more than just, ethnocentric. And if you're ethnocentric, then you know what happens? You end up becoming more lost in the race of life. And that's a stump, or like a crushing halt to maturity when you have like a biased view. And I talked about, about my people and how the way, and we fought, and we were peaceful. We dealt things in different ways. But then, when you deal with maturity, we have like a rise in maturity, but then we digress back into childhood because we were like, fed bullshit like this. Yeah, the fucking TV. No, don't follow down here. Fed, technology. And, we're following these celebrities that are essentially pawns against us. We think, oh, they look just like us. It's cool. But then I remember, like, I think it was an African proverb they say this. Oh, look, there's one of our brothers, but they were pointing at an axe. Yeah, basically, just because an axe and a wood are made from the same material doesn't necessarily mean they're made for the same thing. That's basically what. But take that to a broader scale and take that with a kind of maturity, because just because one person looks just like you doesn't necessarily mean they either grew up the same way as you or they're made for the same thing as you. And no, I'm not trying to say you should separate from them. You can try to understand them, but they don't want to understand you back. then there's no sense. And just like what Kwame Ture once said, in order for peace to happen onto your enemy must have a conscience. And that's another form of maturity as well, to have a conscience. If you don't have a conscience, then how can you mature? And if you don't mature, how can you grow? And what's growing? Progression, learning, being able to look, being able to see, being able to speak, being able to express yourself. And to look at that, and that's you. And then to look at, and I know some people may think, like, Clash, I thought you were, down for your people. Why you sound like you're talking down upon them? And I'm like, it's not that I'm talking down upon them. That's not the thing. It's just that, I'm noticing these things ever since I was young, and I'm just expressing them out because I'm just like, wait a minute, because I know something's going on. Because, our people's unity, I'm talking about people who look just like me, and our people unity is getting pretty bad to the point like our own families don't even trust each other anymore. And to make matters even funnier, we let arbitrary shit separate us. We let, what we are mixed with, our names, which were just slave given names onto us to mark us as property. And then we're arguing over, like, man, we don't want to be identified with Africans because Africans don't identify with us. Bullshit. You are African, and that's how they're going to look at you as. And then we're going to argue over skin color. I make fun of that sometimes. And, it's really funny, too, because, you look at skin color, and I say, like, be proud of the skin that you're in. That's the only thing I got to say. If you're dark skin, you're lovely. Light skin, you're lovely. And that's all I gotta say, man. But personally, man, what's the point? And then you look at, who has more money than whose life is more straight than who, and you're looking at all this arbitrary crap, but then you realize, like, wait a minute, you're in the very same place that we are both in. So the question is, what's there to argue about? You can't argue over shit. That's not maturing, man. That's just slandering. And if you slander your own brother's name because you feel as if you want to feel superior, then essentially you destroyed yourself more than you tried to lower down another man. And what did they say? In slandering somebody else, you reveal a little bit about yourself. I learned that the hard way as well. Though I didn't slander that many people's names, it's just that I have, like, man, what's his problem? Like, why? Why did he do that on to me? But then, you know what, man? What's the point? What's the point of letting insecurity talking? Insecurity talk is stupid because it doesn't help anybody. It just harms both of us at the same time. And I'm gonna close this off by saying a quote from a well-known cartoon show. See, revenge is like a two-headed rat viper. As you are poisoning your enemy, you are poisoning yourself. And it's hard to let go, but it's harder to forgive. And that's also maturity right there, to forgive. But to also never forget, but to always forgive. Man, I can't believe I just recited something from Aang from the Avatar. But at the same time, he's a wise. You learn a lot more from cartoon characters that develop in short months than you do in years. And with that, YouTube, this is my take on maturity. And I'm gonna say out one at one, and I hope you have a great evening or great day, depending on which part of the world you're in. And I say, hey, if you want to, you can like or dislike if you want to. If you don't agree, you can dislike. If you like, if you agree, leave down a comment if you want to say your piece on what maturity is. Or, subscribe if you want to see more videos. And keep updated. This is Broman Clash saying I want, and I love y'all. Later.